Bruce Friedman of Adult Site Broker, and welcome to Adult Site Broker Talk, where each week we interview one of the movers and shakers of the adult industry, and we give you a tip on buying and selling websites. This week we'll be speaking with Brian Sloan of Autoblow. Adult Site Broker is proud to announce the launch of our new website, Adult Site Broker 3.0, at adultsitebroker.com. The look and feel of the new site is nice and up to date and easier to navigate. The new site also has links to our affiliate program, ASB Cash, and our new blog. Speaking of ASB Cash, we've doubled our affiliate payouts. Now, when you refer sellers or buyers to us at Adult Site Broker, you're going to receive 20% of our broker commission on any and all sales that result from that referral for life. You can either place a link to us on your site or refer buyers and sellers through an email introduction. ASB Cash is the first affiliate program for an adult website brokerage. Check out asbcash.com for more details and to sign up. Now let's feature our property of the week that's for sale at Adult Site Broker. We're proud to offer for sale a review site network which has been growing at a good rate for years. It features one of the largest industry directories in the world. It has over 900 pages and has been gaining great traction with Google with lots of room to grow. It already gets a huge amount of organic traffic, more than other review directories with more content. It's ranking well for their main keywords. The network is making $50,000 in profit most months with lots of room to grow. The best month, the network made over $68,000 in profit. Profit for the year of 2022 was $550,000. The network has some of the best writers in the industry. There are also on-call developers and a full-time virtual assistant who knows every function of the site. The owner would be willing to give the new owner an outline of what could be done to further expand the business in the future. Only $2.12 million. Now time for this week's interview. My guest today on Adult Site Broker Talk is Brian Sloan, the inventor of the Autoblow. Brian, thanks for being with us today on Adult Site Broker Talk.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. Now, sex toy inventor Brian Sloan graduated from law school in 2005, but he decided he had a brighter future in the field of masturbation devices than he did helping people with their legal problems. He holds 7 U.S. patents in the field of sex robotics and related technology, with several more pending. Sloan has been profiled in Playboy magazine and featured in media online and on TV globally. He's working towards a future where oral sex performed on a man by a human is indistinguishable from an experience generated by his Autoblow machine. The company makes the Autoblow AI Plus and the Autoblow 2 Plus XT. They sell the devices directly to men from Autoblow.com and to stores and chains in the US. They also have distributors in Canada, the EU, and Australia. The majority of adult shops globally carry their 2 devices. So, Brian, tell me a little bit more about your background.
Yeah, basically, I was headed toward a kind of dead-end life, I would say, as a lawyer. When I was in law school, I discovered antique auctions in South Central Pennsylvania, and I started going to auctions just for fun with a friend there. I bought something, I sold it on eBay, made like $100, and I thought, oh, there must be so much more stuff to sell. And it doesn't require me sitting somewhere at a desk and, kind of suffering. So, yeah, it started with that, and then just sort of, long story short, it just led me to the sex toys universe, and I saw there was a lot of work to be done there.
Absolutely. So you went to law school, but you didn't pursue a career in law. What did you do after you finished school?
Yeah, so after law school, I moved to Chicago, and I bought things from auctions full time and sold them on eBay.
Okay.
I did that for a couple of years, but during that time period, 2 important things happened. One was that I discovered the universe of latex fetish wear as one of the categories that lacked sellers on eBay, and so I started to learn about the category, and I found a factory that made interesting designs, and I started selling latex fetish wear on eBay. And at the same time, I was going to China, buying antiques there, bringing them back and selling them in the US. And after I made a bunch of those trips, I just started meeting people in Beijing, and I thought, it'd be great to live in Beijing. And yeah, after five a couple week trips there over that period, I just decided that my future might be in China, and I just moved
Hmm.
there to sort of figure out the next steps.
Okay. So what happened after that?
So then I started first making a direct to consumer brand of my fetish wear. I took it
Hmm.
off of eBay and directly onto my own website. And
Hmm.
then I sort of exhausted the universe, the fetish wear universe. It's big, but it's also small, and I wanted a more scalable kind of product. So yeah, I became interested in businesses that have kind of a moral fence around them. And once I dug into the sex toys universe, I found, wow, there was a huge opportunity to make actually good devices for people. And the
Hmm.
only reason that there weren't more people doing it was because they were afraid of what people would think. So I just sort of dug in, and I was there for 10 years. And basically, I started with one device, so one kind of automatic stroker I just bought from a factory and rebranded, and I moved from there to now we've like invented our eighth version of our Autoblow device in 13
Wow.
years. So just sort of realized that's what men wanted an automatic masturbation experience, and no one was delivering
Hmm.
them one seriously. They were delivering them true novelties, like kind of
Yeah,
garbage.
like fleshlight
No,
and things like that.
I mean, no, I think Fleshlight, they make when I say novelty, I mean like a thing you get and it just breaks. That was at the
Mm.
time in 2008 the quality of the automatic device. No, Fleshlight makes a high
Ah,
quality device. They make like
sure.
an actual. It's for a long time they didn't make an electronic device, but no, I think they're known for making
Hmm.
a quality device. But they were one of the few people in the universe of male sex toys who took quality seriously.
Right.
So I mean that was inspirational to me, and I said, well, if they can make a quality device that's a handheld, how about I make a quality device that's automatic? And there wasn't
Hmm.
one at the time that when we developed Autoblow 2 back in 2014, it was the only we were the only people who took it seriously. Other
Hmm.
people just created a throwaway, uh,
Right.
jokey kind of product, and yeah,
Right.
so we just took it seriously. And then since then, I've grown the market a lot for and people have started looking for kitchen appliance quality masturbators, and that's what
Interesting.
I delivered to them. Yeah.
So you said that you wanted to get into a business with kind of a fence around it, which would be the adult industry. Why was that?
I mean, just from a competitive standpoint, it didn't make sense that there was this huge industry, especially in 2008. There are a bunch more players now. Still not
Yeah,
as many players as you would expect for the amount of commerce that's flowing through the industry.
true.
But in 2008, far fewer. And I thought, well, why are very few people getting to make all the money from this entire industry? It doesn't really
Right.
make sense. And I learned it.
Sure.
And now since 2008 sex toys have become far more acceptable, in society, and more talented people, I would say, have been attracted to the industry. But at the
Hmm.
time, it wasn't attracting. I'm not young now. I'm 40, almost 42. But when I
Oh
started,
my
I was
God. Really?
yeah,
That old?
yeah.
I'll be
But when I started,
I'll be
yeah,
65 in
yeah.
October, so
But I'm still one of the younger people. When I started,
yes.
and I was 28 or 29, and I would go to events. I was like the youngest person there at 30. And now there
Hmm.
are far more people in that age range who are part
Sure.
of the industry, but at least on the toy side. But at the time, it just wasn't, the industry was ruled by older people who had been making the
Hmm.
same things for like rebranding the same products over and over again for decades. And
Right.
there's nothing wrong with that, but there's a little something wrong with that because people wanted better stuff. So
Yes.
there was just opportunity, basically.
So, I mean, the area that you're in, it's not just toys and novelties, but it's also sex tech. Sex tech has really come into its own and really grown in that period of time.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I never call it sex tech. That seems to be like the popular thing to call it. That makes it
Hmm.
acceptable. You know,
Hmm.
people often use the word sex tech to kind of mask what it is. I just tend not to do it. I say that I
Hmm.
make masturbation devices for men. You know,
Right.
I don't say, oh, I make a health device. I make a sexual, no, I say, I say I make a masturbation machine for men.
Right.
But yeah, it's true. The interest has grown immensely since I started, and not just
Right.
the interest, but I think the interest was always there, but people were afraid to buy the products, and I think the media wants views. So for whatever the reason is, they needed views. Sex was always the thing that got them views, but sex technology and sex health kind of let the mainstream media have the best of both worlds. They were able to not do anything obscene, but to kind of couch the adult industry in like in a positive light, and it just kind of made people feel more secure buying this kind of product for themselves.
Well, the thing they call sex tech, the numbers have gone up to huge digits.
I guess so. I mean, I've seen it personally in my business. I've seen the growth that we've experienced. I don't
Right.
know anyone else's. I don't believe anybody else. Unless I see their numbers, I don't believe anything. But I'm sure if something similar that what's happened to us has happened to other people, that, yeah, people have grown a lot of medium and large scale businesses over the last 10 years in this industry.
So, how has your experience with the law helped you as an entrepreneur?
To be honest, I think it's helped me to avoid lawyers, mainly. uh, and
Excellent.
it's taught me that I've seen it firsthand. There's various. Obviously, I'm running a company of like a medium size. I've needed help on various things, and at the beginning, I thought, oh, I'll ask a lawyer. And I think just seeing their scare tactics, I saw the scare tactics of lawyers for what they were, which was like
Hmm,
a money generation attempt. I
hmm,
asked let's say I needed let's say for example, I want to have a contract with somebody for something, right? And for
right.
me, I don't think that's going to go wrong. I think that's like I just want to have something for general safety, but I have a 98% belief that nothing's going to go wrong. Let's say I
Hmm,
would devote $2,000 to that contract.
right.
That's like my limit of my risk. But I remember once I asked a lawyer to do something, and he started trying to scare me. Let me
Hmm.
tell you the story of this guy who didn't do what I said, and he lost his cars, his house, his whole life because they sued him and he didn't have the right contract in place. And it's going to be starting at 30,000, and then I'm going to have to get this other counsel involved, and then,
What?
oh yeah, I mean,
For a
I've
simple
heard,
contract?
I don't know that it's. I mean, if you ask a lawyer, nothing is simple. It says it can
Hmm.
be what I wanted was something simple, but was I
Yeah.
100% protected with that $2,000 contract? No. Could I have been better protected with a more like research put in? Yes. But was it worth spending like $30,000 on? No, because I didn't believe that the
Right.
risk was there. So I think it's taught me to deal with lawyers in a way that's more advantageous, and it's also helped me to understand that the where you win dealing with lawyers isn't in court, but in finding people who are good at having conversations with other people and coming to agreements, that
Hmm.
are advantageous. So I sort of like learned to use them when necessary as a tool, but
Right.
not to get caught up in their scare tactics of needing to spend a lot with them.
I would think, though, with your background in law school, you would be qualified to write most agreements, right?
I suppose, yeah, I suppose you learn about that, but I still wouldn't trust myself to just write it. I've
Hmm.
written many things myself, but
Yeah.
not. I tend to not need that many agreements. But no, I also just tend to trust people who they've done that. I also don't trust myself. I trust someone who's been doing that same thing for 20 years. But it's just I had to work through a bunch of people to find the kind of guy who's like, yeah, you need that thing. I get it. You want to spend like $1,500 on this thing. It's not a huge thing. Okay, I'll bang it
Right.
out like a 3 hours deal for you.
Right.
Instead of finding someone who's always looking for the kill. So and it's just a weird thing.
Yeah.
But that's what I learned from law school. It's kind of like what to know whether I'm being bullshitted about cost on
Well,
legal
there are
work.
good lawyers and there are not
Yeah,
so good lawyers. And
yeah,
I think the majority are going to give you sound legal advice. At least that's been my experience.
yeah,
And then there are some who, like you said, are looking for the kill. So,
yeah. And they both. I'm sure the ones. All of them can give sound legal advice, but there's
sure.
there's people who want long term relationships. Anyway, it just helped me to be choosy and working with lawyers. But no, I don't think that.
Hmm.
I think in the end, like in the broader way, it helped me to understand that I could teach myself how to do things.
Right.
I
Right.
didn't know anything. I'm not an engineer. I'm not
Hmm.
a programmer.
Right.
I wasn't a marketer at the beginning, but I became one by learning. And I think once, when you
Hmm.
get to law school, one of the first classes you take is civil procedure, and it's
Hmm.
hard, and none of it makes sense until the end. And I think once you've been through sort of courses like that, then it's like, well,
Hmm.
I guess I could learn how to have a website made. Like that doesn't seem harder than civil procedure, So I
Hmm.
think it just sort of showed me like that there was something that's really hard for me, and then other things seemed in comparison less hard.
Hmm. Got it. So, why did you decide on an automated male sex toy?
That was common sense. That's the kind of masturbation device at the time. Imagine, think 2008. What was for
Mm.
sale that wasn't handheld, right?
Yeah.
It was all handheld stuff or like big
Right.
rubber butts and stuff. And
Hmm.
I just thought it would. I mean, I wasn't even, to be honest, I wasn't a sex toy user really at the time,
Hmm.
but I just knew if there was a machine that could give you a blowjob, that's something that men would want.
Yeah.
Just, I
Yeah.
mean, that was just basic. And then I looked
Absolutely.
on the market, like who's making a good one, and it's like, wait a minute, no one's making a blowjob machine.
Hmm.
That's nuts. So I think it was
Right.
just kind of common sense. I don't
Hmm.
know how no one really put the time into it before, but I think it's because the money was coming to people so easily making garbage
Yeah.
that they didn't need to do the work. Like it's hard to make nice hardware. It needs a couple
Right.
years of development per device. You
Hmm.
need to hire like kind of more expert level people, and if you could just make another fake butt, why would you go through the trouble? So I think that
That's
was the
true.
mentality of people in the industry at the time, and it still is the mentality of a good percentage because they don't need to
Hmm.
innovate because they have their enough money already, basically.
Well, although I've noticed in the last, I'd say 5 to 7 years, there is a tremendous amount more product, and there's
Yeah.
even more websites out there. They seem to be popping up all the time.
If you just look at how many products there are a lot. But if you look at how many products are getting the sales, I would
Hmm.
say it's the 80-20 rule that applies to
Yeah.
virtually everything in the world.
Yeah, that's true.
And 20% of the products are getting 80% of the sales. And then 80, and then the eight, it's split the 80-20 again. And then you start to see where the real volume is in that.
Yeah.
So a lot of the products are also kind of copying, if you look at the popular products that actually get the sales, they have 10 types of products, are trying to copy the success of every one of the actually popular products. So,
It's true.
you know,
Well, you
and
lived in
those,
you lived in China. That's done a lot there.
yeah, it is. And you know what? They're very good at it, and it works, and it's a good idea. And that's actually how innovation happens. When they were first making those suction toys, the womanizer and the satisfier, I remember seeing a factory, and they were those toys only had the suction thing for women. And then I saw a factory came out with it's the suction thing on the one side and a vibrator like on the other side, like yeah, that's innovation.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
Well, talk a little bit about your invention process.
I'm not an engineer, but I have pretty clear ideas on how I want my devices to work. I tend to work with like small sort of specialty companies. Like there's a company,
Hmm.
a very small company, like 3 to 5 guys in Canada that helped me develop Autoblow AI. I know exactly like what I wanted to do and kind of how, and then I need engineers to like make it reality. And then
Right.
so I work with these guys in Canada, and then after they kind of came out with a physical prototype, it's really important the factory that I work with in China then takes that thing. Like they made a thing that would be very expensive to manufacture. Then my
Hmm.
factory in China is very good at taking that. They're figuring out how to make it for a cost that would make it like mass marketable. So
Okay.
I think I'm just like I think my skill set is really about sort of having like the vision and then just finding and motivating the right people along the way to do the steps that I don't know how to do, you know,
Got it.
and keeping
Sounds
it
like a
on
good
track.
process. Sounds like a good
Yeah,
process.
yeah, I think it's a
S-
normal process.
Hmm. Okay. So you have two devices. How are they different?
So the Autoblow two plus, we call it Autoblow 2 Plus XT, but that's like the third or fourth iteration of Autoblow 2. That was the first one that became popular after the original one, which was we sold kind of a bunch of the original one, but it wasn't like popular. It wasn't sold like in stores or anything.
Mm.
Autoblow 2 basically has a motor and a kind of crank arm that's connected to that motor, and it drives this row three or well now it's five rows of like spring loaded beads up and
Hmm.
down over a rubber sleeve. It was the popular product before. It was the most popular product in the automatic toy space, and still we
Okay.
have a lot of volume of that, but it is not the latest product. So that one is kind of the good thing about it is that I think it gets the job done, and I think it comes at a competitive price point. It's like $150 product, but it's loud.
Hmm.
It's relatively loud. It's not a quiet product, and it just has one dial on it that controls for speed, and the
Okay.
sleeve is removable. So that was like one of the innovations was that you can remove the sleeve, and actually on
Hmm.
that one the sleeve has three different sizes. So
Mm.
normally products don't control for your penis size, but ours controls for penis size and tightness level
Mm.
by creating different sizes of sleeves, like there are bra sizes for women.
Got
Uh,
it.
so the newer one, which is Autoblow AI Plus, which is the
Hmm.
second generation of Autoblow AI, that's a
Hmm.
totally different thing. Like we have several patents on the move on the mechanism. So basically, the new one has it uses 100% silicone sleeve. You put your penis into the device, into the sleeve, which is in the device, and there's a penis gripper. And that gripper actually, you can modify the tightness level of that with a screwdriver. There's a hole on the top, and you put a screwdriver in, and you can make the gripper tighter or looser depending on your personal preference. And so it manipulates that sleeve up and down over your penis, really causing like more of this gliding and sliding action that occurs during real blowjobs. And it has it has four buttons, has a pause button, a speed buttons, and a blowjob mode button, and it has 10 LEDs, so you can always see which blowjob experience you're in and which speed you're in. But importantly, it also connects to the internet. So the device itself connects to the internet, and it uses a web app. So there's no app to download.
Hmm.
You basically visit a web page on your phone
Okay.
or whatever device. You can
Hmm.
control exactly which part of your penis it strokes on that. You can download, there's a blowjob library. So you can download from a library of blowjobs, additional blowjobs onto the device. You can send easily a link to a remote partner. And the second that they click that link, they're automatically logged into the web app and they can control the device for you.
Oh wow.
And it's the first sex toy ever that has voice control. So it has voice control built onto the like the device or the chip itself, and
Hmm.
there's no wake word. So it takes six voice commands once you're in
Yeah.
the online mode. You can tell it faster, slower, pause, finish me is the big one
Yeah.
that turns the AI mode on in the fastest speed level to finish you. So, and yeah, long story short, we did a machine learning study of the actions that occur during blowjobs. So that and we implemented the action, the movements that occur during real blowjobs are the movements we programmed into the machine. So it's not just like a few guys sat around and thought, well, what do we make it do? And it's like, oh, it just goes up and down or it does this or that.
Yeah.
No, we actually understood. We're the first people to understand what happens during real blowjobs and and to implement those kind of movements into the machine. So yeah, it's a different experience. It's a more expensive product. It's a $240 product now or $250 product, but it's a different level of experience. For people
Yeah.
that can afford the extra $100.
It sounds very space age. Are you? You said a remote partner can control it. Is there any point where the remote partner will be able to give a device a blowjob and you'll get that blowjob?
There are people who've implemented that. None have been implemented on a product that's commercially interesting, I think, to the public. It's
Hmm.
not an area that I focus on. Certainly you can do it, but I don't see that that's where the public wants to go with the
Hmm.
technology. There are popular internet products for women. It's like the Lovin's brand or the Oh My Bod brand are used by webcam
Hmm.
models, and it's mainly used by
Hmm.
women, and men control that. I don't think that many women want to control men's devices outside of like a paid situation. So we don't. I don't really focus on this connect. I focus on it can do that, and there was probably some people who will use it, but I don't think it's like the big. The future is in a woman giving like or whoever giving a blowjob to like a dildo and the device moving. I just don't see it that people would rather not do it, I feel. But
Interesting.
it's possible. I could implement it if I wanted to, but I don't want to.
Okay, yeah, just something that came to mind.
Yeah.
What gives the auto blow an advantage over the competition?
So basically, the way that the newer version, at least, the way that it grips the penis and does this gliding and sliding, it feels great. Not only does it feel good, but I feel that our experiences are more realistic than what the competing products do, and our
Hmm.
internet feature set is far simpler to use than the
Right.
competing products feature set. We're like,
Hmm.
after you tell it how to connect to the internet, we're like one tap, basically hold a button, press go, and you basically are in. There's no Bluetooth.
Hmm.
There's no configuring. There's no. I think it's a lot more user friendly because I've seen from competing products that have internet features, a lot of people have trouble making it work because they use Bluetooth,
Hmm.
and Bluetooth is a
Yeah.
big pain in the ass, and so we
Hmm.
avoid it by using
Yep.
Wi-Fi only.
Cool. So you have a very funny video on the website. I loved it. How did you come up with it, and what kind of response has it gotten?
Yeah, so from the time that I first made Autoblow 2, I decided to communicate to people through cartoons, especially because I feel there's a lot of people who might buy a sex toy, they might not. I feel like it takes it out of the realm of being sleazy, and it's just something like funny. I just like communicating. I feel like it's unusual to see cartoons of an adult nature. So people are already kind of like, oh, this is like actually a cartoon about like a blowjob machine. So I don't know, they're kind of interested, and I have fun. Like this is what I think I'm good at doing. So I enjoy doing it. I write those. So like I write them. I write out how everything should go, and then there's a company that I work with who implements my ideas, and I get the voiceovers, beta stuff. So I think it's kind of like half of it is that it's fun for me, and the second
Yeah.
half is that when we started doing it, it worked, and people
Yeah.
liked being communicated with
Sure.
in that way. So I just kept doing it.
Well, that company's very good at what they do. I might have to get the name from you.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, how have you gotten so much press over the years?
I understand what kind of product features are interesting from a
Hmm.
societal perspective. It's
Hmm.
like if you're like, oh, look, I made this new pair of headphones. It's like no one cares. Like maybe they're a little better than other headphones, but you're not getting in the news over it, right?
Right.
So
Right.
I've done some outrageous things that have a big impact
Hmm.
on people. For example, the reason Autoblow 2 went viral when we started was that I crowdfunded it on a crowdfunding website, and the crazy thing was that people started buying it. We sold hundreds of thousands of dollars worth on a crowdfunding website, and no one had ever crowdfunded an adult product for that much money before.
Wow.
So the store, and I used myself. So people were like, not only did people, like thousands of people, buy this blowjob machine on a crowdfunding website, but can you believe this guy who was like promoting it? Like it's outrageous. So I kind of learned sort of how to deliver something that was both like societally, like relevant to society, but
Hmm.
also interesting and kind of funny and shareable. And I think
Hmm.
the other big one that we did was the vagina contest. So we had a huge scale vaginal beauty contest. It was
Oh,
on this
geez.
website, vaginacontest.com. And I think it would never fly today. They would never write about vaginacontest.com today. But you know what? In
Not with me
2000,
too.
no, in 2015, it just like hit a nerve and it went viral all over the world. And millions of
Jeez.
people started visiting the website. And it ended with a website came to Germany to make a short documentary about me and the women who were the winners of the contest when I 3D scanned them. So,
Funny.
I think it's about kind of creating entertainment. There's like a mix of entertainment and commerce that I think I sort of understand how to hit.
What's your vision on using tech in different ways than other adult toy companies are doing?
Yeah. So, on this topic of voice control, there's so companies are even the couple companies that focus on high tech. I don't think they're
Hmm.
really having like that big of a vision of what kind of technology is possible to implement in adult toys that other people just haven't done. So, I mean, I
Hmm.
just looked around and said, look, uh, cell phones, we are all talking to our Siri and Alexa or whatever,
Hmm.
but why? hasn't anyone implemented it in sex toys. It's natural for people to continually
Sure.
talk to their phone or their Alexa. So, the voice control is just an example of something that it's just opportunity. Like no one has done that, and it wasn't
Hmm.
easy to do. Like that was a lot of work, and I think how much work it is. If you've looked, the products that implement those kind of things normally are in much larger companies.
Yeah.
With much larger budget. So we had to be pretty scrappy to do it. And I wouldn't say ours is not
Yep.
like as accurate as Alexa or something, right? But it's
Hmm.
it's pretty good for who we are and like the budget and stuff, right? So
Sure.
I think people are just afraid of like figuring out how to do awesome technology for less, and maybe they're
Hmm.
afraid of releasing stuff that's like ours is like in the, let's say it's around 85% accurate. Siri and Alexa are like in the high 90s, right? I'm
Hmm.
not afraid to release that and say, yeah, it's like pretty accurate. It's not going to be perfect, but I think some
Right.
companies don't want to do things that aren't perfect. But I think we're happy to do something cool and just tell people like, don't expect that we're going to be Apple because we're not. But so yeah, I think it's just a level of comfort with figuring out how to do stuff with new technology and being comfortable not doing it absolutely perfectly.
Sure. What do you think the future holds for adult novelty companies regarding acquisitions and mergers?
Yeah, so this is something a company has already contacted us, but I don't think it's really my time to sell.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of mergers and acquisitions happening. It's particularly in Europe. Two big
Hmm.
companies have started buying up the smaller companies. It's coming. It's interesting. And
Hmm.
if this was any other industry, okay, it would have started 10 years ago. Okay.
Hmm.
So the fact that it's just starting and there's a few big companies playing around, it means that more of them are coming. And there's going to be a lot of consolidation. I'd say in the next 10 years, there's going
Sure.
to be a ton of consolidation. And, whether or not I don't know what the future looks like of the industry with those companies, honestly, but I think there's going to be opportunity for people who want to sell, but I think it also might get harder. One of the risks for us making this kind of product is imagine, if you look at what we can do with my small medium company. What if Sony decided it was going to make a blowjob machine? What if Samsung it decided to make vibrators? Like those
Right.
people can those giant global companies have they could make amazing adult products, right? So I
Sure.
think there's opportunity from the acquisitions, but it just depends if any giant companies will start competing. I think it's going to be kind of risky for everyone in the industry. But I don't think we're there yet that those global companies will come in. But who knows? In maybe 20 or 25 years, they could have run out of other things to make and they could come for us. So
Sure. So, what's the future for Autoblow?
we have a few more pieces of hardware now in development, really focused on this kind of automatic experience.
Hmm.
I just think about kind of the medium term. I think about really only the next 1 or 2 years. We have a
Okay.
couple new pieces of hardware that we're working on. So I'm young. I'm only 42, and I have still a lot of runway
Hmm.
left to continue to figure out new styles of devices with all the new technology that keeps coming out. There were
Hmm.
some motor types. For example, there was a type of motor I looked at like a couple of years ago. We bought samples to play with. They were $600 a piece just for the motor. Okay, but they were silent. But you can imagine in a few years that maybe that kind of $600 silent motor becomes a $50 silent motor or a $20 silent motor, and then interesting things become possible. So I think just by staying really, I read a lot on the internet all day, kind of every day. So
Yeah.
I think that as long as I sort of keep reading about the latest technologies, I'll keep finding interesting new technologies to implement into products and sort of continue having our own little walled garden of masturbation devices.
Very good. So, do you see the Autoblow and sex robots somehow merging into something greater at some point?
Yeah, the media loves sex robots because they're outrageous.
Oh,
But
sure.
I don't think there's any future in the next like decades, at least, in these humanoid style of robots. People
Hmm.
don't really want to have sex with a robot person. It's bizarre. I mean, it's like having sex with a corpse, okay? Like, I mean, even if you make it its mouth kind of talk to you or whatever, it's not. I mean, it's not. It's like a dead. person. So there's a very small group of people who more buy those kind of dolls for like more companionship reasons, which I can understand because people are different. So I understand the companionship aspect, but on the mass market, it's just not a convenient thing to own, a human-sized thing that needs to live in your closet. So I think that the growth is really only going to happen on devices like ours. I think devices like mine will get better and quieter and maybe smaller, maybe even bigger, depending on what they can do. But the doll market will always be there, and there'll always be people kind of trying to put robotics and dolls into the same sort of category. But I don't see it for at least my lifetime becoming a product that most people are interested in, just because it doesn't do anything back to you. It's not Westworld. It just lays there, So when they did make it, honestly, when they did make the robots that kind of talk, I was thinking the thing that they made the robot do is talk. That's they want it to like move on your body when you're having sex with it. But as long as it just lays there, I think that's a kind of a niche, a very niche market.
Well, what if they do develop it so it actually moves?
Yeah, like if a robot sits in your lap and kind of like has sex with you, but it's not going to be like fluid like a human. It's going to be like they
Right.
installed some kind of thing in it, and it's like hips go back and forth, like, almost like killing you. It's not going to be like a gentle, we're a long way off from a gentle humanoid robot experience.
Yeah, you're probably right. Well, Brian, I'd like to thank you for being our guest today on Adult Site Broker Talk, and I hope we'll get a chance to do this again soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It was a pleasure. My broker tip today is part 6 of what to do to make your site more valuable for when you decide to sell it later. Last week we talked about eliminating unneeded expenses. Next, you can trademark your website. Having a trademark instantly protects your brand and makes your site more valuable when it comes time to sell it. Trademarking your site will cost an average of about $1,500, but should be more than worth the investment when it comes time to sell it. Show buyers ways you feel the site can make more money in the future. This includes showing them future plans you may have, traffic trends, as well as sales trends. If things are growing and you can show them how to grow it more, they're likely to be willing to pay more for the site. Do something unique with your site. If you have competitors, figure a way to do it better. Be different in some distinguishable way that makes you better. Your members will notice and spend more money with you. Make your site a place that people want to visit, not just to buy things or view porn. Be creative, not just one of the many. Keep thinking outside the box and make positive changes to your site. Think like a buyer when planning or updating your site. Don't think like a tech. We'll talk about this subject more next week. And next week we'll be speaking with Chris of Saucy Time. And that's it for this week's Adult Site Broker Talk. I'd once again like to thank my guest, Brian Sloan of Autoblow. Talk to you again next week on Adult Site Broker Talk. I'm Bruce Friedman.